Welcome to the Teachers of B.C. podcast. Real stories, real teachers, real life. Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge that we are on the unceded territory of the Indigenous people of British Columbia. Haichka.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to part 2 of our interview with Jenny Robinson on the Teachers of B.C. podcast.
All right, so I'd really love to know if there has been an instance, maybe this year or even when you were with us back in when you were teaching the grade 1 class, is there a specific student who you observed maybe showing a lot of growth as a result of your work with them on social emotional,
Sure. I think, there was lots when I was in my program because my day was about social emotional learning. It was all about, programs and whatever. But I think the best one would probably be when I taught 1-2 here. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of grade 1s, and they came up and they had no confidence. One of them was about to hit reading recovery and he would just power down. The second he thought he couldn't do somebody, he would do the horrible self-talk of, I can't do it, I'm stupid, I can't, we all have that kid in our class that does that, but it's on how you frame it and how you teach them how to get out of that. And it took a long time. And the best part is now, when I came back to this school to teach kindergarten, those parents of those kids that I had to work really, really a long time have come to me going, oh my gosh, I hope I get the sibling in your room because I saw the benefits of what you taught and how it's gone on. And now it's kind of funny because I see that student in the hallway here, and he kind of tries to pull Mr. Attitude, and I always give him a pull and say, look, little boy, I know you're not the tough guy you think you are. And he's like, will give me a little wink. And he, he's got a confidence he didn't have before because he'll take challenges. And what I think a lot of people sometimes disregard the fact that social emotional learning and weaving that into your practice, and it's all about the language you use, right? And when you're dealing with kids, when they're in crisis, when they're in that, everybody wants to say the red zone, but when they're in that part where they really can't identify when they're really upset, when you are able to layer it for them and show them where they are and where they can go, it makes a huge difference because they start to be able to do that with everybody else. And you start to see that it starts to sort of like tentacles, it starts to spread because it's positive. It's positive. It's positive for them. They now have a handle on it. They've been taught how to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And now it starts to spread with everybody else. Mm-hmm. So it becomes this positive culture. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, that totally does. I mean, you also have taught a lot of kids about being bucket dippers and bucket fillers.
Totally.
That whole story of how full is your bucket and how do we fill each other's buckets. And it sort of resonates a little bit with the spreading, right? Because, ultimately to experience true, I think, happiness and positivity is to help fill other people's buckets. Right?
And it's the piece about, it's easy for us as educators to go, do you know what you did wrong? When really it's all about how you frame it, because they're not going to learn from that. Do you know what you did wrong? You have to frame it going, what happened? Scale it back and say, what happened? Mm-hmm. So that they can actually look at the situation, reflect, figure out how they could have fixed it and what they could do differently next time. Mm-hmm. But if you come at them with what did you do? And I do use that a lot because I want kids to be responsible for what comes out of their mouth, their actions they do. It's easy and I've heard lots of adults do it, is say, well, you made me so mad. You made me. And I'm like, no. What did you do? I don't care what he did. I want to know what you did. Mm-hmm. And then that brings them back. And then, I call it the warm fuzzy blanket because it's a wraparound of everything. And especially, again, I bring up the kindergarten part because I think it's super duper important that if I'm able to insert this and make this part of who they are at school for their very first time in an educational setting like this, what are the possibilities of where they're going to go with that, and the skills that they're going to continue on.
Super interesting to see the kids who are very regulated, like self-regulated, and kind of how they grow up and how that manifests and how that affects other people around them. I think that's always a really interesting piece to observe as well. So, more of a personal question.
Yes.
If you had a magic wand, and you could wave this magic wand and all of your desires and your needs in your classroom were to be met, what would that look like for you specifically in your room?
I would have a barista making me an espresso every day.
Oh, that'd be great.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
That would be pretty
With
awesome.
my coconut creamer. Okay, reality. What would it look like if I had a magic wand? I would take away report cards. I would have more...
For K specifically, or just across the board?
I'm just going to speak to K.
Okay.
I think I need to just speak to what I'm doing now is take away report cards, have more opportunity to have intimate conversations with parents, because they're an important piece in this. And I meant to say that before, is that if you don't have the parents bought in, you don't have the kids bought in. So, okay, magic wand, I'm putting the wand. Whiteboards all over my room so I could use less paper.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because my photocopying is almost done.
Yeah, I hear you. I photocopy for 12 divisions and 4
I can't
high
even
school
imagine
blocks, so
Mrs. Sutlow.
I totally
can't.
understand that. But the whiteboards are great too because they're also magnetic.
Yeah. And I would love. I don't need technology. I've realized the technology is not the piece for me. They know how to work an iPad better than I do. We don't need to work on that.
Yeah, they're very clever these days.
They are. It would be to take away my tables and make stuff where I could have way more flexible seating, because I'm finding that even at my age group, they love having the opportunity to find their own space.
Yeah.
I'd love more space. I think especially for kindergarten, because we're growing and learning and doing so much active things. I would love a little bit more. Probably it's almost like a double person job sometimes, because I'm exhausted. I'm not saying that not every teacher isn't exhausted when they leave, but in kindergarten, you're on from the second you walk in that door and say good morning to the second when I ask at the end of the day, I'm like, who had a good day and who's coming back tomorrow? And they all say, I am. And it's wonderful, but I'm tired.
Yeah, of course.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
So maybe having a second teacher to team teach with, that would be ultimately. I don't need a support worker necessarily, or maybe it could be a support worker or whatever.
It would just be nice to share the load.
Right, yeah.
Because it is a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I admire kindergarten teachers, and they're very special people. I mean, I remember my kindergarten teacher. She eventually became our administrator for a little while, and when she passed away, like our entire graduation grade 7 class was in mourning. She was a very special person to a lot of
something
us.
very interesting. I put this post on my Facebook the other day about in 50 years somebody is going to be talking. Did you see it?
That.
When I said somebody is going to be talking and saying your name as a teacher and whatever, and I'm like, I need people to remember that when you plant the seed and you implant that in someone's brain about that experience, they never forget you.
Never.
As I've never forgotten Mrs. Radzikowski.
And me, Mrs. Walker.
I know, right? We know those people because they were our first adult outside of our families and aunts and uncles that we walked in and had to learn to trust and
they made us feel loved.
Absolutely,
They
and
really
go on this
did.
journey together.
Yeah.
So.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I would love to do a part 2 with you.
Okay.
If you're interested in sharing more
of
about your
course.
SEL stuff.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for sitting with me and enjoying all the sounds of a class with me, sounds of a school.
Okay, maybe I might can I make a recommendation?
Absolutely.
I highly suggest. I have just started playing. Not just. I found it in December on Google Music. It's
Nice.
Rockabye Baby.
I love it.
I know.
I use it for my own kids.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's amazing because all the hits that we love are in a xylophone form in lullabies.
Yeah, they're lovely.
And I play that all the time. My guys love it. And it's funny because they play a Queen, We Will Rock You, but the kids actually know the words to it, so they start singing it.
They do. And we've in music, we've used that as a rhythm practice game. So it's pretty incredible to see the amazing taste kids have in music these days.
Totally. I love
You'd think it would all be Baby Shark, but it's really not. Yeah,
No,
it's wonderful.
not if I had my way.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to sit with me, and thank you so much for listening to the Teachers of BC podcast. Real teachers, real stories, real life.